Good morning. I'm Christina Chavez Nelson, and I will be your worship associate today. This is my third time being worship associate with the great Betsy Keithcart, and I cannot wait to see what this distance Memorial Day service will be. Welcome to our virtual gathering today at First Unitarian Universalist Church of Stockton. We are glad you are here and hope that you will find here what you are seeking. We are a community of individuals holding many different beliefs, coming from many different places, and each progressing on our own journeys of life and faith. We join together in our commitment to care for humanity and to shape a better, healthier, more hopeful world. We promise to accept and encourage all those persons of goodwill who gather here virtually and hopefully soon together, recognizing that we all continue to grow and learn throughout our lifetimes. We especially welcome and stand with LGBTQIA persons, even as we seek to welcome all persons of every age, ability, status, and shade of skin pigment. We strive to make our community a place of peace and acceptance, love and nurture, even as we challenge ourselves and others to live more faithfully according to the values of Unitarian Universalism.
Friends are the flowers in the garden of life. Maybe there's someone you haven't contacted lately, but you've been thinking of them. Consider sending them a text or giving them a quick call. It can mean so much. to the four directions. Spirit of the east, spirit of air, of morning and springtime, be with us as the sun rises in times of beginning, times of planting. Inspire us with the fresh breath of courage as we go forth into new adventures. Spirit of the south, spirit of fire, of noontime and summer, be with us through the heat of the day and help us to be ever growing. Warm us with strength and energy for the work that awaits us. Spirit of the west, spirit of water, of evening and autumn, be with us as the sun sets and help us to enjoy a rich harvest. Flow through us with a cooling, healing quietness and bring us peace. Spirit of the north, spirit of earth, of nighttime and winter, be with us in the darkness, in the time of gestation. Ground us in the wisdom of the changing seasons as we celebrate the spiraling journey of our lives.
Dear First UU, please join in the chalice lighting. Nathaniel, will you please get our chalice? As many of the parents of the First UU children in Stockton recognize, this is a chalice made in the cottage and has pride of place in our home. Today's chalice lighting words are by Albert Schweitzer. At times when our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person, each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
And now for our words of affirmation. We believe in love. Love is the only doctrine of this church. We believe in truth. The quest for truth is our sacrament. We believe in helping others, and service is our prayer. We believe in the sacredness of life. To dwell together in peace, seek knowledge in freedom, serve humanity in fellowship,
and cherish the earth and its creatures. This do we covenant each with the other.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the lark still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw the sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with a foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
This is the time in our service where we generally ask the children to come to the carpet to share in the story for all ages. So wherever you are, however you are getting comfortable, in whatever childish impulses still race through your heart and soul, please enjoy this lovely message from Kevin Hinks about why we still cling to our past, why change is so incredibly difficult to undertake, and why our new normals can become a blessing. Owen by Kevin Hinks. Owen had a fuzzy yellow blanket. He'd had it since he was a baby. He loved it with all his heart. Fuzzy goes where I go, said Owen. And Fuzzy did. Upstairs, downstairs, in between, inside, outside, upside down. Fuzzy likes what I like, said Owen. And Fuzzy did. Orange juice, grape juice, chocolate milk, ice cream, peanut butter, applesauce cake. Isn't he getting a little old to be carrying that thing around? Asked Mrs. Tweezers. Haven't you heard of the blanket fairy? Owen's parents hadn't. Mrs. Tweezers filled them in. That night, Owen's parents told Owen to put Fuzzy under his pillow. In the morning, Fuzzy would be gone, but the blanket fairy would leave an absolutely wonderful, positively perfect, especially terrific big boy gift in its place. Owen stuffed Fuzzy inside his pajama pants and went to sleep. No blanket fairy, said Owen in the morning. No kidding, said Owen's mother. No wonder, said Owen's father. Fuzzy's dirty, said Owen's mother. Fuzzy's torn and ratty, said Owen's father. No, said Owen. Fuzzy is perfect. And Fuzzy was. Fuzzy played Captain Plunger with Owen. Fuzzy helped Owen become invisible. And Fuzzy was essential when it came to nail clippings and haircuts and trips to the dentist.
"Can't be a baby forever," said Mrs. Tweezers. "Haven't you heard of the vinegar trick?"
Owen's parents hadn't. Mrs. Tweezers filled them in. When Owen wasn't looking, his father dipped Owen's favorite corner of Fuzzy into a jar of vinegar. Owen sniffed it, and smelled it, and sniffed it. Oof, he picked a new favorite corner. Then he rubbed the smelly corner all around his sandbox, buried it in the garden, and dug it up again. Good as new, said Owen. Fuzzy wasn't very fuzzy anymore, but Owen didn't mind. He carried it and wore it and dragged it. He sucked it and hugged it and twisted it. "What are we going to do?" asked Owen's mother. "School is starting soon," said Owen's father.
"Can't bring a blanket to school," said Mrs. Tweezers. "Haven't you heard of saying no?"
Owen's parents hadn't. Mrs. Tweezers filled them in.
"I have to bring Fuzzy to school," said Owen.
"No," said Owen's mother. "No," said Owen's father. Owen buried his face in Fuzzy. He started to cry and would not stop. "Don't worry," said Owen's mother. "It'll be all right," said Owen's father. And then suddenly, Owen's mother said, "I have an idea." It was an absolutely wonderful, positively perfect, especially terrific idea. First she snipped, and then she sewed. Then she snipped again and sewed some more. Snip, 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 sew, sew, sew. Dry your eyes, wipe your nose. Hooray, hooray, hooray! Now Owen carries one of his not-so-fuzzy handkerchiefs with him wherever he goes. And Mrs. Tweezers doesn't say a thing. At this time in our service, we light candles of joy and concern. This first candle is in remembrance and in honor of those that we celebrate Memorial Day for. This candle is for all who are battling any of the hardships that are caused by COVID-19. This candle is for all who are finding joy in this time, celebrating birthdays, celebrating anniversaries, celebrating graduations and promotions. This candle is for all who are choosing to find new ways in which to live in hope and in love and in strength. And this candle is for all that is too painful or too close to our hearts to share at this time. And now I'd like to share Prayer for Memorial Day by Wayne B. Arneson. Spirit of life, we enter into this season of Memorial Day surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses. We remember first of all the women and men who are currently serving in the armed forces, and we pray for their safe return. We also acknowledge that there are women and men who will not return. As we grieve their passing in the daily papers, we pause to honor their service and their sacrifice. We also pause this hour to give thanks for all the women and men who have served in the nation's armed services
Those who have not served cannot fully imagine the experience of war, but we do know war's aftermath and the toll that it can take on the human heart. This day remembers and acknowledges loss, and so do we remember those whom we have loved and lost. We hold their names and their faces in our mind's eye. We recall the gifts they gave to us through the strength of their being, the depth of their love, the courage of their dying, and the fullness of their living. In the holy quiet of this hour, their names surround us, and they live with us in blessed memory. May we remain together in silence as a tribute to all that they have meant to us.
We need one another. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us.
Dear members, this is the time in our service that we usually have our offertory. Please remember to send in your pledges, and any who are watching, and members especially, if it is in any way possible for you to contribute additional funds to help the work of this church, they will be greatly appreciated. Please send any offerings to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Stockton, 2737 Pacific Avenue, Stockton, California, 95204. If you have any questions, please email the office at stocktonuu.org. It is with great pleasure that I mention that Betsy Keithcart is doing the lovely harp music for this offertory.
We affirm the unfailing renewal of life, rising from the earth and reaching for the sun. All living creatures shall fulfill themselves. We affirm the steady growth of human companionship, rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars. People the world over shall seek the ways of understanding. We affirm a continuing hope that out of every tragedy, the spirits of individuals shall rise to build a better world.
Memorial Day is a nationwide dedicated time for remembering members of the armed forces for their service and the ultimate sacrifice of their lives. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Seabees, Coast Guard, National Guard, Merchant Marines, and reservists. Service members we have known and those we have not known. This Memorial Weekend holds innumerable challenges for us. Everything is different this year, including the ways we commemorate this solemn occasion. A new war of sorts with the COVID-19 places medical personnel on the front line. Our lives are uncertain against an invisible enemy that may take the lives of our loved ones or our own lives. One question raised in my mind is, in what ways might we participate in Memorial Day at this point in time? A short answer might be to tune into Memorial Day services online or on TV, such as Vietnam and Inner View, or watch movies about war, or to communicate with friends and family while following social distancing protocol. A longer answer takes me to the readings for today's service and the prophet, which Khalil Gibran wrote in 1923, in the time between the war to end all wars, later known as World War I, and World War II. This year, we are together, yet alone. We're alone, and yet together in our aloneness. And the prophet spoke of love. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. As we practice social distancing, choirs seek innovative ways to sing together. Musicians are finding different ways to create music together while we are separated. Churches such as this one post virtual services on YouTube. We are finding ways to cope with the new reality of our lives. The prophet spoke of joy and sorrow, which seems so fitting under the circumstances. When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. They are inseparable. Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you are empty are you at standstill and balanced. Khalil Gibran reminds me that our joy and our sorrow will rise and fall. This Memorial Day weekend, I'm thinking about what I've learned from my family members who lived through times of war, and I'm reflecting about other families who were not so fortunate to have their loved ones return home. During the Revolutionary War, my ancestor, Azariah Dickinson, served as a Minuteman from Amherst, Massachusetts. He answered the call to march on Lexington and Concord, compelled to respond to the shot heard round the world. After continuing for several years as a Continental soldier, he built a family home in 1783, the place where my mother's great-grandfather was born. In a small room called the Keep, just steps away from this central hearth. After years of searching, I was fortunate to discover our ancestral homestead in the Pioneer Valley, near the Connecticut River Valley, and the family invited me in. This remarkable touchstone still stands as a testament of my ancestors' devotion to a new nation. The Dickinsons have been gathering to celebrate our family history since 1883. The 150th Dickinson reunion, originally scheduled for next month, has been postponed. But usually, around 100 Dickinson cousins gather to celebrate the branches of the family tree founded by Nathaniel and Anna Dickinson, whose descendants survived many wars over multiple generations. And I reflect on all the souls whose lives were cut short in war. They lost their lives and their legacies as casualties of war when our nation was in its infancy. How many family trees have branches missing entirely because of war? Many members of his congregation knew my mother, Sarah, born in 1916, who lived to be 100 years old. Sarah had 2 brothers who served in World War II. And my father joined the U.S. Army Air Corps in April of 1941, before the U.S. joined the war. In August of 1941, George wrote to his folks about his monthly pay in the days when hamburger was 8 cents a pound and a loaf of bread was 5 cents. That 4th class specialist rating was effective August 1st. So I'll get $45 August 31st. That's pretty good, I think, don't you? That's a pretty good raise from $21 to $30 to $45 in 11 days. I don't know what compelled him to join, but he knew the risks. Before he shipped out from San Francisco in an unarmed, unescorted troop carrier on December 5th, 1941, he wrote a quick letter to his father. Dad, you have my insurance policy, and just to make sure about things, I'll enclose a little note about my will. Nothing to will, but... He and his Army Air Corps pursuit group from Hamilton Field were bound for the Philippines via Hawaii. They were a day away from Pearl Harbor when it was bombed, and they made an immediate U-turn back to San Francisco. While most of his unit was sent to the Bataan Peninsula, George was sent to China to serve in East Asia, in the China, Burma, India theater of operations under General Chennault of the Flying Tigers. Many of his fellow Air Corps members, though, did not survive the Bataan Death March and imprisonment in the death camps. My father's brother Chet served in the Merchant Marines, surviving a shipwreck off the coast of England. Uncle Chet made at least one complete circuit around the world during World War II. At the end of the war, Sarah wrote that her brother Bill flew over 50 missions in the B-25 during the war in Europe and was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. Her younger brother Richard had been in the Pacific on a destroyer escort. His whole crew won a presidential citation for successful action. During my father's service in China, he was awarded 2 Bronze Stars and the Legion of Merit, among other honors. At the time, letters took weeks or even months to travel between the front and the home front. In May of 1942, my dad wrote home to his folks, "I received your 2 January letters on my birthday. A nice present. It's the first mail I've gotten. Sure seemed good." See, at first it took 4 months for mail to reach him in India and China. And in the same letter he wrote, "P.S. Send me pictures of anything," with 3 exclamation marks. Can't you imagine the millions of families waiting at home and the service members held in suspense during wartime, waiting for word that their loved ones were all right? My father, like other service members in war zones, wrote home about his plans once the war ended. Many of his plans worked out, such as having a little place in the country, playing music, and starting a family, fortunately for my 3 brothers and me. Although others did not return, their plans did not come to fruition. When the war ended 75 years ago, my mother wrote to her mother-in-law, Pearl, "I'm so thankful that all in both our families are safe, that other things don't matter." What lessons can we take from our predecessors to calm our minds, hearts, and spirits? How did they handle their sorrow and their joy during World War II? For some, it was a renewed dedication to work or volunteer. For others, growing a victory garden or going into nature helped. And if you know someone who went through the Depression of the 1930s and World War II, when everyday goods were rationed, perhaps like my parents, they kept balls of string and lots of rubber bands and reused their aluminum foil. Habits from living in the home front, reminiscent of doing their share, whatever they could, for the war effort. As Khalil Gibran's prophet spoke, "When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the selfsame well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. The deeper that sorrow carves into our being, the more joy you can contain." Life will be different for us, just as the lives of those who lived before us changed in so many ways. Women served in non-traditional careers during the war, as well as in the armed forces, and have continued to do so. Before the war, my mother signed her teaching contract and her resignation, indicating that if she married, she could and would no longer teach. The day after Pearl Harbor was bombed, her principal called in all the female teachers and tore up their resignations, telling them that if they wanted to marry before their men shipped out to war, they would still have their jobs. As we plan for the future, however that may be, may we acknowledge our sorrow and express our joys. May we recall that they are inseparable. May we come into peace. To close, Wendell Berry calls us to freedom from despair, sharing the ways he finds peace. Here is Wendell Berry's The Peace of Wild Things, reading number 483 in our hymnal, and a recording on being.org. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, I fear of what my life and my children's lives may be. I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the presence of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water. And I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't take long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't take long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.